Hello and welcome to yet another session of Speaker Spotlight, where we bring up a speaker or a part who has been a member of Writernaama community, and they talk about a topic, and I become the learner. So I enjoy and relish the learnings that they are imparting. So, as you must have been checking the reels if you are there in the Writernaama community, that the topic is about non-violent communication, but it's a blend of two topics actually, which Samrin is bringing up, and it's basically about the stories we tell to ourselves, blended well with something which is related to non-violent communication. So when I talk about non-violent communication, let me first be very honest that I'm not very well versed with the topic. However, whatever I could find out in very simplest or in the layman's term, is something related to, as the name itself suggests, it's not violent. And violent here doesn't mean the physically violent, but yes, the violent part of getting hurt, feeling attacked, not feeling safe, all those things. And when the non-violent communication comes into the scene, I guess the whole communication levels up, because it's one part to understand communication, to learn communication, to speak fluently, to speak impactfully, but all that goes for a toss if we just focus on the what to speak part rather than the how to speak part. Okay, so before we move ahead, I just want to set the stage for a few of you who are joining without knowing what the session is going to be about. How many of you have been ever misunderstood even after explaining yourself? Maybe, just give a thumbs up or type a yes in the chat box. How many of you have been misunderstood even after explaining yourself? Yes, or give me a thumbs up virtually also is fine. Samreen, I myself have been so many times. How many of you have been hurt someone unintentionally? Definitely not intentionally, hurt unintentionally with your words. You wanted to say something else and it landed up in a way that you did not expect. I have been there so many times. And how many of you have you ever stayed silent just to keep the peace, just to keep that, peace, and in keeping that peace, you lost yourself? And I am assuming that we all have been there where we all have been misunderstood even after explaining. We all have hurt somebody unintentionally through our words. We all have chosen to stay silent because of these things, that, okay, it should not hurt somebody. So rather than saying the truth, which could have helped a person, we have kept it to ourselves. And in doing that, we have lost the essence of being us. And the problem here is not the problem of we not telling the truth or we not having the courage. It's just a skill that needs to be developed with time, with practice. And so it is not a hesitance problem, it's not a lack of confidence problem, it's not definitely emotional dysregulation or any such thing. Basically, if I pinpoint on that, what I understood with this is that it's just a delivery problem. The way you are delivering your message is the whole soul game changer. Yes, the silence is also taken in wrong way, so it's a loss again. Absolutely. So it's always a loss part. So that's what is going to happen through nonviolent communication. And this nonviolent communication exists exactly in these cracks. And today, Samreen is going to fill up those cracks for us by explaining and blending few things together. Talking about Samreen, I would just say the labels that I feel are very close to my heart. A very dear friend, a very wonderful supporter, cheerleader, friend, always, in wherever I needed a friend, she has been there. So, and a wonderful coach, trainer, and so much more, which I did not know till the time I saw her CV, despite being friends for so many years. But it so happens that suddenly you get to see your friend's CV and you realize, oh my God, I didn't know that you are so many into so many things and you're doing so much. And definitely, what I know is she is a wonderful, wonderful writer. not ready to take a plunge into writing a book, but definitely whenever a book is coming through me or without me, doesn't matter. But I know that's going to create ripples and revolutions around. So that's for sure. A wonderful editor, wonderful command on the language, and definitely a wonderful, charming personality. And if I define all this in one word and want to summarize that, that would be just what I feel when she speaks is a serene bliss and calmness. So with that, she's bringing up the double dose of calmness along with the topic and with her personality. Welcome, Samrin, on board, and over to you.
Thank you so much, Hina. And I don't know, you have said so many things and have attributed so many adjectives to me. I am intimidated and scared of, keeping up with the expectations. So, for once, I would request the group to not listen to your coach and guide, Hina. And let's begin on a very clean slate and decide it for yourself once the session is over and done. So, as we are heading into today's session, the title was Reclaiming the Stories We Tell Ourselves. And when we decided to do this session, there came along something called a dialogue festival, which is happening closer home, which is in Lucknow. I'm based in Kanpur, and I know the organization, the person behind it, and they are into non-violent communication. The organization is called Vartale, and they are doing this. So we thought I thought that this is something which could be closely aligned with the stories we tell ourselves. Now, what is NVC? What is NVC is short form for nonviolent communication, and I'm sure here people are from NLP background as well. I don't know how many of you are, but by conjecture, I know people are here from NLP. So, when I studied a little bit about nonviolent communication, I found it to be overlapping and with NLP. There are a lot of concepts and methods which we call by different names in NLP. However, they are also existent in NVC. So, nonviolent communication is basically focused on uh, creating uh, creating situations, or you can say dialogues, on facilitating or enabling dialogues and diffusing tense moments or diffusing violent situations. Now, here, violence doesn't mean any physical violence. However, it means violence or an accusatory message or tone which we have in our communication, and it mostly goes unnoticed, or it is quite unknowing that we have it. Let me give you a very small example. Is everyone comfortable with Hindi also over here, or anyone who needs English also? So, as a child, if supposedly you were holding a glass of water and it fell down from your hand, and your mother might have been in the other room, or somebody asked what happened, you say, glass टूट गया, मेरे हाथ से glass गिर गया. And now imagine a scenario where your your younger sibling is there, right? All of us, it's a universal assumption we love our siblings unless there has been some deep rooted emotional issues where there is a hate relationship. However, we love our family and siblings uh, more dearly. We hold them close. So you would not, want them to put them in a difficult situation. But if the same thing happens, the glass fell off, your sibling was drinking water और उसके हाथ से glass छूट गया, and somebody says क्या हो गया, you would say इसने glass तोड़ दिया, right? So here, just notice the tone. Just notice the language, it, and you're not doing it on purpose. Might be you are trying to, put your sibling in a difficult situation as a child. All of us tend to do this while growing up, that we would even put false blames on them. But a lot of times it happens in a very naturalized way, that when the same mistake we are committing, we say we assume that it happened by mistake. However, when the other person committed the same thing by mistake, it is never a first assumption that they could also have been mistaken. We would say that, so and so did this. So here is where the non-violent communication shows up in the very first, very initial interactions, in very close interactions with our friends and family members, and so on and so forth. It increases. It becomes increasingly, it enhances, or it expands itself. It expands itself in, say, your professional situations, when your boss says they ask you for a presentation and they would go and present it on their worked hard on it while they would present it. That is again another form of a kind of communication which is not non-violent. They might accuse you of certain things, or they might say certain things, or they might take the ownership, and in reality the ownership was yours. You have worked hard over it. So these are the minor situations or places or things where nonviolent communication is required. And all the harsh things we tell others and leave others. The very first thing is that we judge ourselves the most. We put ourselves in the most difficult situations. This brain of ours, it never understands. It is never calmed by any situation. Like we put ourselves in that place where we always judge ourselves, and we are the most harshest critic of ourselves. So this communication, the NVC, is needed for our own brain firstly. So before we begin and give any decide that NVC is for my relationships, for my close family, for my friends, or for professional situations, it has to begin with us. It has to begin with you. How have you put yourself throughout this year? Where have you judged yourself? Do you always feel that you are procrastinating on your goals? Or actually, the goals were never about, they were not in reality in tandem with what you want to do. Possibly, you are being very harsh on yourself. You're criticizing yourself too much. So, all of it is this critical conversation, this not being gentle with yourself. All of this falls under the non-violent communication. So, this is how we could correlate it. Another thing is, what is this dialogue festival is, as the entire non-violent communication thing goes on. It is said that, the only way you could solve these issues, the only way you could perhaps make some room, be gentle, be more open, be more kind, and be more warm in your communication with others and with yourself is by having more conversations, by holding dialogues. And dialogue, as the word says, it is between two people, dialogue, right? So a monologue is when you are having it with your own self. So while you are having that monologue with yourself, so you need to be more gentle and kind to your own self, as well as while the dialogue is happening. So it is never about you putting, how you're putting your words out with your family. I guess if you haven't watched the reel Hina shared yesterday, so go to her Instagram and check out that reel where she had shared an incident, how she was having a conversation with her husband and how it turned out to be one of the markers of nonviolent communication. So it is always how we are communicating, the method of communication, which turns things around. In FBI, when they train people, so they really train them hard on negotiation. There is a book on nonviolent communication by the person who started it. It's Mr. Marshall. I will share the link, the name to the book later on. And there is another book called Never Split the Difference. So it is written by a person who was a senior fellow in the FBI, and there also they have these things of negotiation skills. Negotiation again is one of the part of communication, again where NVC comes into picture. So any kind of conversation which we are having with people, where we are trying to mold the way in which at which we look at things, at which we are trying to uh, delimit the limiting beliefs, let go of the limiting beliefs, and trying to pave the way forward. that forms, in a way, the picture for the nonviolent communication. So, with this, I would like to take you towards a few questions that are planned for today's session. I would request you to please pick a pen and paper, and we are going to reflect on certain things today, because the as the title is of the session is reclaiming the stories. So, we are going to reclaim the stories. We are going to think about all the thoughts, the ideas, the stories, the narratives we have held for in 2025 till now, and how we can move away from a limiting narrative to a narrative which is more gentle, which is more towards non-violent communication. And it is going to be a practice which we start with ourselves and then slowly and steadily move towards other relationships. Let me share the slides with you first. Yeah. Is it visible? Yeah. Okay. Is the full screen visible to you? Let me know. Okay. So if this year were a newspaper, what would your personal headline be? I know most of you are readers and writers, so I'm looking forward to some interesting answers for this one. Think about it for 2-3 minutes. Please try not to Google it, but or use AI. Yes, for 2025. If 2025 were a newspaper, what would your personal headline be? Is my screen visible to everyone? Okay, all right. Reconnection 2.0. Okay, thank you, Ina. Interesting. Thank you, Niti. Lost and found. Interesting. So this is mine. Anyone else who would like to share? You can also unmute and speak. Oh, is that so? I've shared in the chat box. I'm typing again.
Oh, okay, okay. I was checking on the screen.
Okay. Yeah, moving on. Okay, we have an answer in the chat box. Wonderful year with a hope of dreams to come true. Lovely, Isha. Thank you. Okay, so now two questions over here. Uh, First, answer the first question. Think about it. You have time. Think and answer. And then answer the second one. What sentence or thought did I repeat about myself this year the most? Thank you, Farina. Okay. Yes, it could be the answer. Yes, Ina. I'm sharing it again. I think my screen wasn't visible. Just give me a moment. For some reason, it is not working. Yeah. Is it visible now? What sentence or thought did I repeat the more about myself this year? Okay. Once you have answered the first question, then think about the second one. When did I hear this sentence most loudly? Like, were there any specific situations in life or when you were hearing it?
Samreen, by sentence, you mean the headline that we gave to our year, right?
No, no, no.
Then,
That was the headline that you gave.
hmm,
That was a conclusive headline about any other thoughts or sentences, thought
okay,
patterns that repeatedly occurred to you this year about
okay,
yourself.
okay, got it.
You know, sometimes we feel that we are not doing enough and we keep on berating ourselves for it. Although when we look back, if you look back month by month, you can you're able to see how much you've where were you in 2025 January, and where have you reached right now. It could be in terms of work, in terms of relationships, your health journey, your professional journey. And sometimes you might feel that, you had set out to do certain goals which were completely forgotten halfway through the year, and you were up onto something, and your mind is stuck on that thought. What I had set out, वो तो पूरा हुआ ही नहीं, वो achieve नहीं हुआ. But you are unable to see that there is a lot more to you which you have accomplished. And by accomplishing, I do not only mean that something that is counted in terms of your professional or personal achievements. It could even be not focusing on work. Instead, you wanted to rest, or you wanted to focus on your mental health, or you wanted to focus on certain relationships, and other things took a backseat because of it. So anything works for you. There is no standard to gauging it. Anyone who would like to share their answers? Okay, we have a few answers in the chat box. Am I doing this correct, or shall I check another option as current option? I mean, okay, I can manage anything. Maybe be in the night. Okay. I wish to change before I age. Okay. Thank you for your answers. And can you uh, now understand, or can you observe, when did you hear this sentence most loudly? While you were trying, while you were facing a difficulty, while you were trying to pacify yourself that if this is a difficult situation, it would get better, while you were in your aspirational mode. Okay, when I feel frustrated. Okay. Uh-huh. So I will leave you with these thoughts, because this question, you may even take a screenshot of it. Uh, this might require a little bit of deep work at your end, and the session time is a little contained. So if you want to work more on it, you want to journal about it, you can do so after the session. Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you, Niti. Now, moving on, if you think the answer to the previous question I've received, as we reach the end of the year, what narrative has been built for you with these thought patterns? If these were your dominant thought patterns, or even if they were not dominant, whatever the thought patterns were so far, what kind of a narrative have you built for yourself for this year? Like in December, right now, what is your state of mind so far from January to December 2025? What will your story be? What is your narrative? Think about it. We have time. Okay. Thank you, Niti. You've won some and lost some. You can even write in detail in your journals if you want. There might have been certain highlights of the year for you. For each one of us, they are. Wow, wonderful, Farina. Mhm. So, for me personally, my narrative has been that I feel if I push through things, if I come out of my old patterns, then that always works for me. And I've been a little experimental this year in terms of my work, in terms of my thought patterns, and I've seen that it has worked for me. So I'm going to enter the next year with that kind of a narrative that, yes, pushing myself with newer patterns would help. Okay, Isha says, we'll try new technique without losing hope in achieving my dreams. Okay, wonderful, Isha. I think somebody was on mute. Would you like to share something? Anyone else? It is a good exercise to understand how our communication pattern has been with ourselves. We spoke of nonviolent communication at the beginning of the session. So, are we unconsciously practicing it, or do we need to practice it more? All right. Now, I would request you Yes, thank you, Nidhi. Practicing more. Yes, definitely. For me also. That's okay, Isha. You can check the recording later on. So I would request you to, in your notebook or journal, whatever you have, divide it into two parts like this. And on the left side, right, how has this narrative which you have formed, which you answered for the previous question, how has this story helped you survive, cope, challenge, or move forward? And how has this story limited me or tired me or shrank something? Because when we are initially intimidated by something, or we feel it is a challenge, or we find that it is very difficult, it's a huge burden, and despite that we try to work towards it, and when we come out of it and when we look back, it has only helped us in being better, stronger, and it had a lot of lessons for us. It had been a learning experience. And also, when the story has tired us, or it has limited us, or it has made us into something which we actually are not, that also equally is a learning in
Mhm.
itself. But while we are in that moment, we are unable to recognize it. We are unable to understand that it has actually shrunk us. We are belittling ourselves. So now is the time, now is the moment to look back at all those stories, at all those narratives which you have formed till now, and understand which ones shrank you and which ones moved you forward. And there is nothing wrong because about shrinking ourselves, because we are the first ones who judge our own selves. We might feel that, I'm not going to accept this personality of mine. How can I? Or sometimes some people have this feeling that I am somebody who can cope with anything life throws at me, or I need to be strong. We are in that era of our lives where sometimes we feel it is not okay to be emotional, or to be expressive, or to be vulnerable about certain things in life. And come whatever may, I cannot afford to be vulnerable. I have to come out of it. So sometimes just experiencing those moments, just letting yourself be, just letting those moments go through, and shrinking yourself because you do not know any other way of dealing with whatever life is throwing at you is okay. But once you recognize those moments, then you can definitely do something about it. So now is the time when you can look back at that story and think about it. And it is okay if you don't want to share it, you can keep it with you. I just want you to recognize and understand this. Because once we understand this crucial part, a little bit of how to communicate would become better. How to communicate with ourselves. Yeah. Now, moving on. Now, honestly, think about it. What part of this story is fact which you have been telling yourself? And what part of it is my perception or conclusion? Because, we sometimes say, I'm never able to do this. I've never been good at it. I don't know why it always happens to me. And in that moment when we are saying those things, we forget that there have been good things also which have happened with me. It is not always the challenging part or difficult things which are happening to me right now. So it is in these moments like these that we need to recognize our own communication with ourselves. Once you recognize that, you will understand that which part of the story that is being formulated in your brain is actually fact and which part of it is your perception, or you have concluded because of the circumstances, situations, perceptions around you. So you would be able to sort between the two. The story could be work related, could be a personal thing, anything at all, whatever you have concluded till now. Is there anything you would like to share? Anyone would like to share anything? So I'll assume that it is clear to you and I'll move forward. Yeah. All right. Now coming to another crucial part is, which story do I want to carry into the next year? And which one can rest here without any explanation? I did so and so because so and so is okay. We can leave that part. I can take any one of these stories which I have identified and I can take it to the next year. What is it that you want to carry into the next year with you? Which story you want to carry? And it is not compulsory the story which we have identified so far, you have to carry that. You can always formulate a new one. You can always start with a fresh slate. And new year or not, you always have all the freedom in the world to start afresh whenever you want to. So far, which story do you think can be left behind? What are those things that we can leave behind? You can share your answers in the chat box also. Things which you would like to leave behind for uh, before you enter 2026. Okay, Neeti says my experiences in writing and how it helped me shape me evolve so far. Don't wish to carry my back past. Okay. Experiences which have left us feeling a little negative or um, a little distasteful about ourselves, about our lives, about our capabilities, those can be left behind and we can carry on with fresh vigor. Anyone else who wants to share? Okay. And finally, I have one more question for you, which is rewriting the story. So, as I step into the next year, I choose to remember that, and this that could be one word, one sentence, multiple words, multiple sentences, an entire story. So, possibly as I step into the next year, I choose to remember that I will speak more assertively, I'll be more conscious of how I'm communicating with my own self. We have a few answers. Unfinished work that needs to be finished. Okay, thank you, Farina. Hina says, I choose to remember that I'm enough and nothing except me decide my self worth. Lovely. Any more answers? So, as I step into the next year, I choose to remember that I'm allowed to take my own time. I'm in no rush. I'm not running after any goals which are very urgent. I want to take it slow. Perhaps that could be your story for the next year. I choose to remember that it is the effort that counts. It is the journey while you are trying to achieve that ambition or goal of yours that makes it memorable, right? Or perhaps another important thing that you could choose to remember is that your worth is not determined by one single year or one single event or one single achievement. So, if maybe this year, 2025, wasn't the year that you thought it would be, the way things would unfold for you. So, remember, it is not your whole life. You always have the choice to change it, to mold it, to choose different things, to erase and rewrite your story whenever you want to. So you can have different versions, multiple versions of your story, whichever way you choose to. And I would request the group to please take a screenshot of this and add as many sentences to this prompt as much as you want to. You would be, surprised at how much you can think and add to it. So with this, I'm ending the questions, the question prompts for you. Thank you for patiently listening to me and participating wholeheartedly. Okay, there's another answer. I left toxic people left, right, and center last year, and it did feel good. I choose to remember those decisions I took and how it will help me in the next year in case similar situation arises. Wonderful. Thank you. So now the room is open for any questions if you have around these, around the session, around nonviolent communication, anything. Feel free to ask me. I would try to answer as much as I can.
Hello.
Yes, Niti.
I would like to understand the difference between assertive communication and non-violent communication. I have been trying to understand, but I couldn't find an answer for that. So, if you can help me understand that, that will help.
Uh, I can say that not all communication is assertive communication. Assertive is when you are taking, you're being firm and yet you are putting across your viewpoint
Yes, yes,
in a firm way, right? Uh,
yes,
Non-violent communication is, where a situation where you think a conflict could happen or a conflict might have happened in the past, or a conflicting situation was there and it has diffused because of how you communicated whatever you wanted to. So these two could be overlapping in certain situations, but howsoever they are not, equal to each other. So, for
Okay.
example, in a workplace, assertive communication could be that you ask your boss for a leave, and you know that it is not easily granted. And you tell them that instead of asking for permission, you tell them that I'm not well, so I would not be coming to office today. And this has happened with a coaching client of mine, actually. A girl, she was unwell since last 3, 4 days, and she was still asked to work. So much so that she was unable to speak properly. She had bad throat and fever and cough and cold, and she was actually scared to ask her boss whether she should can she take a leave. And she messaged me because we were doing a course on communication, and I do hand holding for working professionals where I teach them assertive communication, confidence building, and for mid management leadership roles. So part of that
Okay.
was it. She messaged me in the morning and she said that, can I ask my boss for a leave? But I'm really scared to do so. So I said, this is actually an exam for you right now because you are learning this with me. So treat it as your test and let us see what happens. She messaged the boss. She dropped an email and she did not switch on her login to her laptop that day. And she said that he did not scold me. I was very scared. And she was so excited and happy that it felt like a win to her, which is actually very sad to know because that is a right of an employee, a basic human right to take rest, to be on leave when you are unwell. But the
True.
toxic work culture was so awful that she was actually very scared to ask for a leave when she had every right to do so. Now, here, the nonviolent communication could be that, she then keeps on thinking that, oh my God, I have not taken a leave, and I should have taken a leave. I'm so bad at it. I'm so awful at communicating. And despite I'm learning the fact that assertive communication is there, I'm unable to implement it. So, continuously thinking or berating yourself, putting yourself down, because nonviolent communication is just doesn't happen with only other people. Like when you're communicating with others, it happens while you're communicating with your own self. So
Okay.
that is an example of nonviolent communication.
Okay. So you mean to say NVC doesn't happen when we are communicating with others?
It happens. I'm saying that it happens in different situations. Like it happens with others also. It happens with ourselves also.
Self also. Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
it is not only limited with others, but it begins with ourselves. That is what I mean to say.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And sometimes, I mean, even in workplace and all, let's say, for example, sometimes some situations and all,
Hmm.
we will be able to manage ourselves,
Hmm.
and it it so happens that all of us are put into a win-win situation and all that. But then when it comes to personal relationships,
Yes, I know.
I mean, I don't know. We do draw boundaries, and then, uh, but still, I don't know. I mean, neither I feel so far, neither I maybe I don't know how to implement NVC or assertive. Maybe personal relationships is something we take it for granted or something. I'm not sure. I don't know on that. Assertive is something up to an extent, yes, it works, but NVC is something I have not implemented and I don't know how to probably implement so far. And as such, this is my second meet attending on NBC as such. The first
Okay.
one was from my organization.
Mm-hmm.
I am also a trainer, a business communication trainer. So from my
Okay.
organization itself, they had organized and I attended. So, but then it was only after attending the NBC webinar or a talk on NBC,
Mm-hmm.
it my life took me into a bad kind of a situation or a toxic kind of a situation, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know how to manage, I didn't know how to handle things. And I fumbled, stumbled, everything and all it happened. And I'm still there in the healing process. I have not come out of that completely too.
Mm-hmm.
But I do not regret my decision. I am very firm in terms of what I have taken the decision on. I'm very rather I feel that yes, because that kind of toxic thing, I couldn't have survived.
Mm-hmm.
And but then this is what is keeping me alive, is what I would say. My other areas of interest like writing, music, spirituality, and being a coach, being a trainer myself, because being a trainer, being a coach myself, I need some kind of an inspiration. And
Right.
when I do not get anything from the people around me, obviously I don't want to get into that kind of an environment which pulls me down.
Mm-hmm.
So in these kind of situations, I'm not knowing how to handle myself, how to stand for myself, how to be assertive, how to communicate non-violently. So where do I
So,
see myself?
Neeti, I would say this is something which is work in progress. So, attending a few sessions in NVC is not sufficient in order
Mm,
to learn to put it into practice in everyday life. And being a coach or a trainer, I understand where you're coming from because I'm also in the same situation. But practicing it in your personal relationships is a slightly difficult ball game because the kind of setup we have been raised in Indian society, and the kind of relationships we have and the family systems we have. So even with our closest relationships with our parents, with our siblings, with our kids, also at times, it is very difficult to draw boundaries. And
mm,
sometimes, despite repeated reminders about boundaries, uh, people simply are, I'm going to use this very strong term, they're tone deaf. They fail to understand and, acknowledge that. And they may actually turn hostile towards you slightly because you're trying to
mm,
enforce those boundaries. So, one has to be really courageous and bold and take that, I would say a little negative or a slightly different attitude of people, your
mm,
very loved ones with whom you're trying to enforce the boundaries.
mm,
Because if you have to suffer either ways. If you're not enforcing the boundaries, then the same story is going to be repeated. It becomes a loop. And in order to
mm,
step out of it, step out of that loop, you have to actually assertively put that boundary and ensure that the boundary is in place. And you will lose some part of the old relationship in that process. Because now this is something new for between you and that person, which has never occurred earlier. Because
mm,
earlier, whatever was there, it was acceptable to,
mm,
and they also treated it as a normalized thing. But now when you're saying no to it, so this is a new version of you, which even
mm,
they are unaware, they also don't know how to handle.
Mm.
There is bound to be certain friction now. Whenever we
Mm.
enforce boundaries, there is a friction. And
Exactly.
yes, and we have to acknowledge and we have to bear that friction. It is, we have to develop that kind of slightly thick skin in order to let go of, sometimes you have to let go of the relationship, sometimes you have to let go that sort of relationship which you had with that person earlier. Like, you, I'm not saying you cut off ties, you cannot cut off ties, but
Mm.
the relationship isn't same anymore when you are
Mm.
trying to enforce certain boundaries. And it
Mm.
holds true for both personal and professional relationships. Professional relationships are easier to cut off, but personal are not.
Mm. Mm. Exactly.
So it is always a work in progress.
Okay. The same example what you gave of that particular girl, your friend or someone, you said that
Yeah.
that leave example.
Yeah.
In professional thing also, if I mean in a professional case also, that can be acceptable, and most of the cases probably it works also probably, but then still we are finding people at professional workplaces also where bosses are toxic and all that. But in
Yes.
personal relationship, if that happens, some I mean, either our parents or probably an elder, a
Hmm.
person who is elder to us,
Hmm.
the same person, he takes it in a way that, are you informing me or are you taking permission?
Yes, they get offended, and it is a very natural response on their part. More so because they are not used to this kind of what they call talk back, because they feel
Mm,
you're talking
mm,
back to them.
mm,
So then comes in the different techniques or tools of communication where you try to explain to them. And a lot of times when that explaining doesn't help, then you simply have to cut short the dialogues. You
mm,
have to
mm,
like, you have to accept that the relationship is going to be very mechanical from here onwards, and this
mm,
elder person could even be your parent. But
mm,
if they are hurting you to a point, to a situation where it is no longer acceptable, then you have, and you feel that the, like, you have to make a choice. If you are okay with having a holding a mechanical relationship with them, then that is okay. And if you are
mm,
okay with putting your energy and emotions into it every other day, then that is again your choice. So whether
mm.
enforcing boundaries or not, again, comes at the cost of the relationship with the person you are trying to enforce the boundaries.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions, or shall we wrap up for today? I think we are good to go, Ina.
Okay. So first of all, wonderful session. My biggest takeaway was that the blend that you gave and the part there where you made us reflect about what stories we want to carry forward, which will help us to shape a better version of ourselves. What I realized is till the time we don't work on the nonviolent communication within ourselves, these stories cannot be improvised. So there is a very strong
Absolutely.
connect between both of these, and definitely a subject worth delving deeper into, because apart from all the other communications, I feel the communication within ourselves or with ourselves is the most important one.
Hmm. I think that sets the tone for every other sort of communication which goes through us, which filters through us, in which we have with other people also in different relationships.
Indeed, indeed.
Yeah,
And very interesting questions, very wonderful participation. I loved everything and read all the comments. Thank you so much for being here. And
likewise.
Samrin, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. This was very, very insightful, very, very useful, and totally, totally worth looking into, when, especially at the end of the year.
Thank you. It's my pleasure, because I also got to learn about NVC and was able to correlate, because I've been doing a little bit here and there on storytelling. But when I discussed this with Abhishek, the person who's holding this dialogue festival across India, so that is where it started from. And that is how I was able to correlate it with the stories we tell ourselves. So thank you everyone for participating, for listening to me, and for sharing your answers. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.